purple party people at? Where they at? Get down. Welcome to episode 105 of Amari Purple Talk, a podcast where I share my thoughts on the Prince musical singularity. I'm Richard Cole, Imaginationist, comic book myth builder, and the Vic Sage of Funk. Thank you once again for tuning in. Please leave your comments in the comments section below. And please download on your favorite podcast platform. If you're listening on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And please continue to send your questions or topic suggestions for Amari Purple Talk. And how you can do that is by clicking the link in the show notes below, either the website link for Amari Communications or by following me on Twitter at RichardCole_now using the hashtag Amari Purple Talk. And your topic or question might just be read in a future episode. All right, let's get down to it. Once again, apologies for the delay. This should pop up on your podcast platform or YouTube come Thursday, if not a few moments sooner. But just kind of a late start getting the episode off the ground. Kind of a busy week going into the holidays, the holiday season. So work's going to be crazy and still family stuff going on. Also apologies to family members. But yeah, we've had it's been a rough month, actually. Just a lot going on. And, me and the missus, we just decided, hey, let's just kick back, regroup, recharge. Let's get this year out of the way. There's that. And like I said, work's going to get even busier for the next few weeks. So there's that. So there might not be an episode or a new episode of Amari Purple Talk, I should say. Probably, if not, say, the last week of the year, probably definitely as the new year comes in. But as breaking topics come along, or if there's something I really want to address, I'll make the time for it. But just want to focus on probably these next few weeks, since my time's going to be limited, kind of focusing on some quieter projects, kind of get some more things off the ground. Again, if not the end of the year, definitely for next year. So with that out of the way, let's get started on the first topic. First topic is going to be just my thoughts, brief thoughts on the Paisley Park Under the Cherry Moon 35th anniversary event. So I didn't go, wasn't able to attend, but I've been checking out everybody from Michael Dean to others that have attended the event. And one of the surprises during, I guess, the panel for this event, there were some tracks that were leaked, possibly for a Parade Super Deluxe edition, we hope, at some point. Maybe we'll get that next year. We hope. But the three tracks were Evolve, An Honest Man, and an early take of Sometimes It Snows in April. So it's kind of like Comic-Con. I kind of made a post on Twitter saying that something like this is like getting the trailer for a big tentpole movie, but not getting the release date for it at all, which is a good treat, for those that attended the event. So, cool, props for, doing something special like that. But yeah, some of the things that have leaked, because there's been some leaks, cell phone footage leaks of the tracks. And even though there were just kind of snippets of the songs, I enjoyed it. That Evolve the Dog one. I'm really really excited to hear the, if ever it comes out on the Parade Super Deluxe. I hope that's one of the tracks included. Sounds great. It's funky. I like it. An Honest Man is kind of kind of a piano run through, kind of similar to the Piano and Microphone 1983. Kind of has that vibe to it. So again, I enjoyed the version that's on Crystal Ball, although that's a cappella. I guess the sort of instrumental version that's in the actual film. I kind of enjoyed that as well. But this, I think I would enjoy more so than both of those versions. So I would be very interested in, again, hearing the complete track of this early demo. And, the Sometimes It Snows in April, that early take. It's kind of reminiscent of what we've heard on the Sign of the Times Super Deluxe with Power Fantastic, where it's kind of just a run through of the song and kind of Prince's instructions and sort of that studio chatter that you hear. So it's kind of intimate and personal in that. And that's another one. Yeah, I'm excited by these choices. Again, I hope there's a Parade Super Deluxe. And I'm one of those. I would be more excited for a Parade Super Deluxe rather than a Diamonds and Pearls Super Deluxe. But I mean, hey, either one, if they announced it tomorrow, like either one's coming out, they're still going to get my purple croutons, but definitely want to save up some purple croutons for that Parade Super Deluxe. So I'm hoping that, with them releasing those tracks to it, or leaking those tracks to it for that event, I think that was a great first step. And hopefully that will lead to an even bigger announcement, hopefully in the new year. So looking forward to it. The sort of dark cloud over this event was sort of the fan reaction to Jerome Benton not being invited to the event. And I'll say this is my opinion. If this was a celebration of just the Parade album, and cool, you had, as far as what I've seen on social media, Dr. Fink was there, Bobby Z was there, and that's, great having them on a panel and the Q&A and all of that. Again, it's a great, selling point for the event. Obviously, it, sold a lot of tickets. But again, if it was just the focus on the Parade album itself, if that was just the single focus, I'm not sure if they were there to just, not only to discuss the movie, but they weren't technically in the movie, but if they were there discussing the recording of the album as part of it, that's cool. I get that. That's fine. And it's logical for them to be there. But you're going to have an event celebrating the film and not have the co-star of the movie there to, give anecdotes about the filming. What was the atmosphere like? How was Prince as a director? We get certain snippets and biographies and things where they've interviewed, some of the actors, like I forget the actor that played the father in that film. He was also the villain in Beverly Hills Cop. That, or, Kristen Scott Thomas, you get those in the biography where it's like, oh yeah, from an actor's point of view, he was a very competent director, I mean, he wasn't Spielberg, or he wasn't Ridley Scott, or, Spike Lee or anything like that. It was just that, hey, he, for a person that's never directed a film, and trust me, that is not an easy job. Making a movie, just like making an album, it's not an easy thing to do. So for him to rise to that occasion and to produce what he did, it's phenomenal. It's, it's amazing. And it's within the same year, as Spike Lee. We give Spike Lee the credit for, kicking open those doors to bring black people back into the forefront in cinema. But, here Prince has done it twice, same year with Under the Cherry Moon as She's Gotta Have It. And then 2 years earlier, even though he didn't direct Purple Rain, but to have a film with an all black cast do what it did, the numbers that it did in 1984, again, it's something that's totally amazing. So to not have the co-star of the movie be there, not to even think to invite him, not even give him a chance to say, oh no, I've got other things going on and I can't make it. No, not even give that, just not even an invitation. That's messed up. That is messed up. And I would say, definitely, again, I'm not, in the offices with the estate. I don't know how much power that the family members have, even though half of them sold to Primary Wave. I don't know how much of a voice Primary Wave would have in all of this, or who, were the actual decision makers in this. But I will say this, you guys totally dropped the ball in not having Jerome Benton there. Again, the co-star of the movie. It wasn't like, I don't think anyone else was, Kristen Scott Thomas, did they reach out to her and she couldn't make it, wherever she is, if she's here in America or if she's overseas and can't come over based on whatever restrictions are going on at the moment. I don't know what other, I can't think of any other co-stars that would, that would have warranted. I would say between Jerome and Kristen Scott Thomas, I think those two should have been the main two. If you're going to have an event for Prince fans celebrating Under the Cherry Moon. And I get it. Sometimes it's like a Star Trek convention or a certain Comic Con, depending on what city you're in, where sometimes you can get even, the C-list actors in the movie to make an appearance to talk about the film even. So I would think, hopefully in the future, hopefully by 2026, and, let's pray that a lot of people can still be around and stay healthy and, in good shape to still make these appearances. But hopefully, if you're going to do an even bigger celebration in 2026 to celebrate, say, its 40th anniversary, definitely, whoever is making these decisions at the estate, y'all better damn sure make sure that Jerome Benton is there for this one. Because just to have his voice, his opinions, his memories, I'm sure there's a lot we can learn about the film, deeper cuts about it beyond what somebody wrote in somebody's book, or the few sentences they got from such and such actor, beyond saying, oh, Prince was a competent director and yes, he did very well. He had a lot of pressure on him. Hopefully we can get more, what fun stuff happened, what kind of pressure was he really under, I mean, we get Susanna's point of view from the fiance perspective, but, here's somebody that goes way back even farther with Prince. And two, hey, like I also posted too, Jerome Benton is the hype man of the music industry. The hype man. There'd be no really Flavor Flav or anybody that's a hype man, and whether it's hip hop or R&B, without him. Modern day. Maybe you can go back to having Bobby Bird be an influence, but how could you not have somebody that's been in those trenches, that's seen everything that's going on, and not get that perspective of it? So I hope that they, when it comes to 2026 and we're doing that 40th anniversary, definitely, get Jerome there. Heck, get Kristen Scott Thomas in there. Talk about the film. Let's celebrate the film. We get the record. We got all the stories. We got Dwayne Tudor's book to know about how the record was made, how the album was made. But let's celebrate the film. It's a favorite for a lot of people. It's a favorite of mine. I've got a, when it first came out, yeah, I saw it 2 or 3 times in the theater. And yeah, I had a weird sort of thing. It was like I enjoyed it, but I couldn't pinpoint the things that I enjoyed until maybe a few years later, to where I view it more as a romantic comedy than I do a drama. And to me, it's stood the test of time on that level for it. But, I mean, it was enjoyable enough. I mean, I related to the message. I'm one of those, yeah, wouldn't mind seeing it in color. I wouldn't mind seeing the alternate ending. It might have made for a better film. But, that was his vision, his artistic direction. So, hey, I'm behind it. That was his decision, and that was final. So, I don't know. So again, by 2026, let's get something. Let's do better. Whoever's making these decisions at the estate, and make sure the family is included in these decisions. Because I'm sure they would have said, "Cool, get Jerome in there" or something. But like I said, this will be as far as decisions, and we do benefit, great. Again, thankful that Paisley Park can have these events. Grateful that we as fans can go attend these things. We're grateful for all the albums that have been released, whether they're reissues or super deluxe editions, whether it's a special project from the vault like Welcome to America. We're grateful for all of these things, but hopefully let's get the family on the same page, or include them, and let's make sure they get their money too. Make sure they get paid for this. So I don't know. What do you think out there? Did you attend the event? Like I said, a lot of people had a great time. Let's not take away from the positive of it. It was a great gesture and a great event, a great idea. And what they were able to pull off, it looked great from the people that attended and posted their excitement on social media. But I want to hear your thoughts. What did you think? Did you enjoy it? Do you think it would have added more to it if Jerome was there to tell some stories and some anecdotes? Leave me a comment and let me know your thoughts. And from there, we're going to move on to topic number 2, which is the main topic, and that is revisiting the Rainbow Children. And just recently, this album had its anniversary, its 20th anniversary. Yeah. So, wow. And it's weird because now every time I go on social media, we live in a time now where there's a major album that's had an anniversary literally every day in the week, not just Prince. Sometimes Prince has 2, 3, or 4 in the same day or same week. But then it's like on this day, this George Michael album came out. On this day, this, Temptations album came out. And it's like, wow, we live in a time to where it's like, oh, it's 40 years, it's 50 years, it's 20 years, it's 30 years. And it's like, where's all this time going? And it's, everything's moving so fast. But the Rainbow Children had an anniversary last week. And it was a decisive album. Here Prince was in full effect mode of his Jehovah's Witness conversion. And just like, anyone that gets turned on to a new idea or a new religion or a new lifestyle, whatever, you're gung-ho. You jump in and you're excited, because it's whatever it brought you out of. If you were like at your lowest point in life, if you were just depressed, or if you just felt lost, and you get turned on to something, and it's just like you want to hold on tight to it, and you want to obviously share it with the world. Well, here in this case, Prince has the platform to literally share it with the world. But, the Jehovah's Witness, it's not really, I would say, a popular Christian religion. Some view it as a cult. and it can be negative. I know they've knocked on my door a few times, and it's like, it's a drag not having to answer the door or whatever. But it was a very decisive album, for a lot of people. And I guess the duality of it, this was at a point too where Prince was very comfortable in opening up at this point. He was having the celebrations on a yearly basis at this time. And, kind of one of the things to where, like, okay, Jehovah Witnesses don't celebrate birthdays, but those celebrations always took place during that week for some reason. So, but it's cool. I get it. I wish I was in the position to have attended those as well. But again, social media, well, the internet period was still sort of in that growing stage, where we were slowly all getting access to it. So with the, what was it, the Love for One Another website, and then later the NPG Music Club site, we were starting to get this access to those celebrations and how people were having a great time. But it was during this particular year when he was on the verge of releasing this album. He sort of had he sort of leaked the album there at Paisley Park during the celebration. In fact, you can probably still find on YouTube where Kevin Smith talks about that period where he was asked to come film a documentary by Prince. And I urge everybody to check it out. It's funny. It's got a lot of funny bits in it. But the thing of it was that there was a part where they played the album, and then I guess they wanted to get everybody's thoughts about the album, and it kind of sort of created this controversy around it, which Kevin Smith had got a lot of footage from. But then they were sort of kind of turning on Kevin because it's like, well, what does he mean by this? What's the deal with this? This sounds like misogyny. No, this sounds like, my religion's better than your religion's, or it's, racist because of family name and all this other stuff going on. And like I said, check out the lecture that Kevin Smith does, and this became one of the topics during that lecture, his retelling of it. But he was, like, Prince, you need to get out here because they're asking these questions. I don't know what's going on. You need to address this. And then Prince comes out, at first reluctantly, but then he spent like several hours, engaged in the discussion over this album. And whether or not that was one of the things that didn't allow this album to, again, stand up with the classics of, his 80s period, or whatever your favorite album is of the 90s, or your favorite album of the 21st century. Musically, it's a damn good piece of work. Yeah. And I don't know, we're going to kind of go over, well, we already went over the historical significance to Prince's worldview. Because like I said, this was kind of knee deep in his conversion at the time. I think since like right around 97, 98 was sort of that whenever Larry Graham comes into the picture, there's that slow turn of events. Then 2000, he gets his name back, or basically the publishing contract that expired, allowing Prince to get full control of his music publishing, which at that point gave him the complete freedom to go back to being Prince. And again, there were the celebrations. There was that hit and run tour that I've heard bits and pieces of, and I hope one day that one of those can get released officially as a CD, or maybe even a DVD of one of those shows, because it was a greatest hits. I know some people aren't too keen on the greatest hits aspect of it, but again, it's show business, not friend business. And sometimes you have to do those greatest hits packages to get enough money. Then you could do that next tour where you can, like the One Night Alone thing, that was something to me that worked as an idea, as a concept. And yeah, it allowed him to not play the hits. But prior to that was that Hit and Run tour where, again, it was a greatest hits package. But I love that band lineup from that time, with John Blackwell on drums, Najee was on sax, let's see, Rhonda was on bass, let's see who else, I forget who else was playing in the band at that time. But I mean, that right there was just an amazing lineup. And I think some of that, yes, some of that still carried over into One Night Alone as well. But then by then, you had Maceo full time into the NPG, a few other members, Greg Boyer. So yeah, that was an exciting time. But the Hit and Run again was greatest hits, and then it was just kind of quiet. 2001 again, there was a celebration, then the rumblings about this new album and the kind of division that it caused. And I think that was it was one of those things. He was knee deep into that religion, and he was proud to do it. He was obviously inspired, because it's an inspired piece of work. Again, when you divorce from the religious overtones and just take it as a positive message album or a artistic statement album, but musically, to me, I think that's what a 40-something-year-old Prince should have sounded like, I guess. It was very mature. All of the cliches, the Lynn drums, the kind of those keyboard riffs, those Oberheim keyboard riffs and things, it was only one track. It kind of had the little James Brown thing going. There was some attempt to like compete with sort of neo soul at that point. But unlike him chasing hip hop earlier in the 90s, this was one to he's just feeling it. It's like, yeah, it's classic. So again, there's that sort of, the album's intent versus listener and fan expectations. So again, like I said, this was a big message album. It was a departure. All great artists make that sort of left turn, and it's our job to kind of keep up with where they're going. Bob Dylan had a similar religious conversion around, I think, like the late 70s through maybe the early to mid 80s. And that turned a lot of fans off. Now that a lot of that stuff has been re-released in its own box sets and super deluxe editions and repackaging, it wasn't that bad of a period, or they realized oh, well, those sessions, yeah, that did kind of divide the fan base, but here, that set of sessions, oh, that was some good stuff for 1983. And the same thing with Prince. It's like, yeah, this was a left turn, but musically, it was great. And again, whatever the fan expectations were, I don't know. I wasn't expecting anything really. I mean, once he changed his name back, I know the first thing that came out was the Radical Man 2045, and that was on the Bamboozled soundtrack. I bought that soundtrack just for that song alone. And I had seen the movie, and yeah, the song, and it fits with the theme of the movie, the questions and the challenges that Spike Lee presents in that film. Yeah, 2045 Radical Man is a song that definitely fits. I don't know if it was specifically written for the film or if he just happened to have that track around as a newly minted track and said, oh, well, this sounds like this might fit. Try this one. But either way, but as far as it being a song included on a movie soundtrack, it works 100%. When you take the song by itself, and this is the first thing by Prince with his name back as Prince, then yeah, to me it left a lot to be desired on that. But again, when I look back on it now, to me, it's no different than a lot of artists where they'll come out with the album and they won't put the best track out as the first single. To be like this little quiet thing. Whether it's slow tempo or up tempo or funky or whatever, it's just this quiet little thing that just says, "Hey everybody, I'm back," and then they hit you over the head with the album, and it's like, "Damn, that album's great." Or the next single that drops from it is like, "Oh, okay, that record is funky. I get it." To me, so that was Prince kind of dipping the toe back in the water as Prince. And it's like, yeah, so I'm going to put this out on the Bamboozled soundtrack, and that'll let everybody know I'm back as Prince. So that gets your attention. And then whenever the album drops, then the album drops. And I think that was what the intent for this album was. And again, like I said, you either love it or you don't. My views on the album, again, minus the religious overtones on it, it works. I mean, it's a mature Prince album, but then some of the Prince, sort of vocabulary is still in there. The slow voice, which, like a lot of people, I was kind of put off by. I felt it was distracting. But the last few times I've been listening to it this week to kind of prep for the show, it doesn't bother me as much because I get it as part of the artistic puzzle. Now, granted, to me, did he need to do that? But I mean, Prince has done it before. But I think when we take it one song at a time, other songs I can't think of offhand, but I think maybe things that have been on Love Sexy probably. Maybe, the Black Album for sure. The opening with Legrand. That opening, "So You Found Me, Good," that one, it works when you take it one song at a time. But then when you're going through the whole album and this is part of the narration, yeah, it can kind of get a little irritating. But again, this is an album that you kind of sit back, you relax, and what great albums like, say, What's Going On, some of Stevie's albums from the 70s, you kick back, you listen to it. This wasn't meant for like, oh, let me go head out on the dance floor. Or it's hard to enjoy in this age of where we're driving and we have more, we've had radio in cars forever, but that's different. As we got into the late 70s and 80s, we've had a cassette at some point. Later it was CD, to where you still had kind of control of the medium. But it's hard, if you're taking a short drive, to really engage with an album with it. Like for me, this one I did the same thing as I did Emancipation. In the car, I just put it on shuffle. And then I can just take the song as it is. So I'm not waiting, to subconsciously feel the flow of the album or get frustrated because it's like, okay, I've started my journey, and by the end of my journey, I'm only 4 songs in, and it's like, God, I want to hear the rest of the album, but gotta get out of the car, and do that. But yeah, this is one you just sit back, you kick back, and you listen to it, and you just absorb. If you want to absorb the message, cool. If you want to just marvel at the musicianship, definitely, because it's kicking. Again, it's still the produced, written, arranged, and performed by Prince, but you've got Larry Graham on bass for a couple of cuts. You've got Najee on soprano sax and flute for a couple of cuts on it, if not most of it or all of it. Of course, the horn heads are doing the rest of the horns on it. John Blackwell is on drums. And, this is kind of like a year in to where we're finding about how great this guy is on drums. Rest in peace to both, Prince and John Blackwell, because that is a phenomenal album just to listen to. It's got the, kind of the Miles Davis early 70s flavor of what jazz was doing at that time, and got some heavy rock going on, stands up to whatever Zeppelin was doing, definitely. It's got some soul, it's got some James Brown funk on it. So it still covers a lot of ground like Prince does, but it's more organic. And I think it works very well on that level of it being organic. So, what else could have prevented this from being a classic album? I would say number one would be that this was released, a couple of months after 9/11. And, the events of 9/11 were so heavy, heavy in this country to where, as a nation, we're just shell shocked. It was hard enough getting through the day. We had just come off of the previous year where, again, dealing with like election results and controversies around election results and stuff. And, again, that was dividing a nation once again, and certain policies again, fanning the flames of that division. And then you fast forward to 2001, and then 9/11 happens. And again, we're just all shell shocked because it's hard enough just trying to get through the day. And then you have something that heavy happens. And everybody was just unsure on how to go forward with it. What was going to happen next? Nobody knew what was happening next. 2 months later, everybody was still trying to wrap their heads around it. And musically, yeah, it was a rough time. A lot of albums just got lost in that haze. Michael Jackson's Invincible, it's like, well, not even Michael Jackson could make things better. That's how bad it was. I think the only album that survived that was Jay-Z's The Blueprint. That was the only album that I think, that was more of a positive distraction musically than anything else that was going on at that time. But by the time you get to November of 2001, and then here comes the Rainbow Children, again, it's kind of hard. And then, like I said, with the religious overtones of that record, you also had that sort of division, amongst religion too. So religion as a subject, I don't think America was ready to kind of hear that as positive a message, or as many positive messages, or even artistic statements. Because hell, even during that time, songs like Imagine were banned over here during 9/11, or I think even Give Peace a Chance. Nobody wanted to say anything. We all wanted to say something about peace. We all wanted peace, and we all wanted to get along and everything. But, whatever you want to call them, the they, them, this, that, or whatever, they were like locking down people from doing what was happening in the 60s. To where you had a voice. It's like, we're not dummies. We know what's going on in the world. And yes, that was a terrible injustice, but you don't hold an entire people accountable. You hold the criminals responsible for it. Wherever they come from, you hold them accountable for it, and you bring them to justice. But, somebody that's a store owner, you're not penalizing them. Or somebody that's just trying to, you're a kid in school, you shouldn't have to be picked on because you're different. Like that. We know that. We understand that. And those are the things that we fight for. Those are the things that we stand up for with it. But again, when you take religion into a larger context, yeah, it was kind of a taboo subject. And then when you're dealing with one that's, again, considered like a cult, yeah, it's easy to kind of sweep that under the rug a little bit. And why, probably why this album didn't get its due. I say the second thing because, yes, now Prince is 100% fully independent. Again, there's not that major label support Now, it would have been hard to kind of market that album. Yeah, say if he was still on Warner Brothers, or if he was on Universal, if he was on Sony, regardless, that would have been a hard album under any circumstances, whether 9/11 happened or not, period. Even if it was just, I would say, even if this album dropped tomorrow, it would be a hard album for a major record company to push in the, and again, to have it say compete with Jay-Z's Blueprint. It would be a hard one to sell, but at least there would have been a little bit more media attention behind it to generate some interest, at least to make it curious. Like, oh, well, why are people beefing over this album? Why are people divided over it? Well, let me buy a copy and find out, or let me listen to it and find out. So I want to wrap this topic up by saying, if you kind of on the fence on it, this is another one. Give it another chance. Give it a listen. I've had the vinyl version for a few months, and I just cracked it open, just, kind of show prep. I didn't feel like playing the CD. I was kind of curious on how it would sound on vinyl. And I mean, it sounds amazing on vinyl. I like the format. I think if this album came out in the early 70s, early to mid 70s, I think regardless of what the religious tones on it are, I think this would have worked. I think a lot of it would have worked on kind of that level, the way that a Staple Singers album would work. So I don't know if that was one of the influences going into this, or again, the creative intent for it. But I think, yeah, if this came out on vinyl back in 1972, even if it was on 8-track in 1972, I think it would have worked a lot better. All of the sounds, but there, like I said, it's organic. It's got some synthesizer stuff going, and there's some things that what is it? I think what's the track? Everywhere. That is an amazing track. It's, to me, that's more reminiscent of '86 vault Prince to me. Let's see, Family Name. I dig that track. Last December is another favorite. I love the title track. I love the journey that goes on musically in that one. Muse to the Pharaoh. That was one I really dug early on when I first got the CD back in 2001. Again, kind of that competing with D'Angelo and competing with Jill Jones. I mean, not Jill Jones, Jill Scott. Competing on that level and working. I think that would have been a pretty good single. And do the maxi single with an extended version, and I think that would have been a pretty good R&B hit for Prince on that one. Everywhere I Like. Digital Garden is deep. That's a very avant-garde track. A lot going on electronically. Kind of even dig like underneath the narration of that one. I don't know, there's this weird Yoko Ono thing that's happening with the scream underneath that, and then there's this feedback guitar, and I love that. I dig that too. So I encourage everybody to give it another shot, give it a listen. I don't know where it would rank on your all-time greatest Prince albums, but I'm gonna do probably in the new year, for at least for the Rainbow Children, I'll do a CD and vinyl comparison of it. So watch out, YouTube listeners or YouTube viewers. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can get notified of that. So that'll be one of the big things coming up in the new year. Also, too, when it comes to Prince's 21st century albums, I'm going to do a video ranking of those, of all the 21st century albums. And these are kind of like my personal views. Your favorite 21st century Prince album might be different from mine. But I will say this, Planet Earth, which is my least favorite, does rank a bit higher than what The lowest rated one is, but stay tuned for that. So hit like, subscribe, hit that notification bell on YouTube for that one. But as far as the Rainbow Children itself as a standalone album, what do you think? Artistic statement, too far off the rails, your favorite Prince album period, or your favorite 21st century Prince album, or just your top 5 all the way around? Leave me a comment and let me know your thoughts. And from there, we're going to move on to our final topic of the day. And our final topic is a Twitter, or excuse me, not a Twitter submission. This came in via the website, Amari Communications. So visit my website, amaricommunications.com. On the artist page, there is a form that you can fill out. You could put your name, you could put your real name or your social media name, your username, your email address, as well as the show topic suggestion or question. And your question or topic might just be addressed in a future episode. So this week's submission comes from Sly Dylan 1. And I dig that. So are you Sly and the Family Stone fan and a Bob Dylan fan? That would be uber cool. So thank you, Sly Dan 1, for sending this in. And your question is about the Prince Netflix documentary. And you're asking if the Prince Netflix documentary is still in production. And as far as I know, yes, it is. A couple of episodes prior, we discussed, myself and Mr. Walter Johnson, we discussed Troy Baer's recent comments on her non-participation in that documentary. And according to her, that she had been in talks with the production staff or the producers. Not only have they approached her about being part of the documentary as far as interviews, but I guess I don't know if it's material that she has in her possession, whether it's vault tracks or videos, that she has to view or clear, or if she's part of, like if she's a consultant on the project, but just not participating as far as being interviewed and being asked certain personal questions regarding Prince. But she has been reviewing material, both audio and video, for the last couple, or at least she has, but the production has been going on for the last 2.5 years, according to her social media commentary. And of course, we had last year where Cat Glover had an unpleasant experience dealing with the production staff, again, feeling that the line of questioning was becoming a bit too personal. But they managed to work that out. So as far as I know, I think she's still a participant in this documentary in some way, shape, or form. And then you've had other individuals like Jill Jones that have had a very pleasant experience all the way through with the producers, didn't have a problem with the line of questioning. There was one other individual, and I'm drawing a blank on the name and how this, but I think it's not another associated artist, but I think it's somebody that's worked with him as far as in a management capacity. But that individual also had a very pleasant experience. So definitely this thing is still going on, and the time that they're taking, I guess, yes, they're definitely trying to get it right. Hopefully in 2022, we can at least, if not get a trailer, can we get at least an announcement of when it will appear on Netflix? And this is definitely a project that I am probably the most excited about, even more so than a Diamonds and Pearl Super Deluxe. Maybe just a little bit better than a Parade Super Deluxe. Um, because Netflix, I mean, their documentaries. I love the Two Killings of Sam Cooke. I love that documentary. Black Godfather about Clarence Avant. That's a great documentary. There was one on Malcolm X. I was telling my wife we were watching something about. It was something on YouTube regarding Natalie Wood, how that murder investigation is being reopened. And there's a book that Natalie Wood's sister has released, giving her thoughts on the case. There's been, in this YouTube thing, there were like interviews with the police that are reopening the case, the detectives, I should say. And I was telling my wife, I said, if there's a Netflix documentary that drops about this, folks better start watching out, because the minute that Netflix documentary drops, they start asking questions. People start reopening cases, and you start finding out the truth in a minute. So, again, I don't know. It's not my place to comment on if Prince was murdered, or was it just one too many? Because I mean, you have a situation like that, and you're dealing with prescriptions, and even Prince himself, once said, addictions are many. And this is the thing, to where, he needed to still hop off of those pianos. He still needed to be on top of his game. He still needed to do what he had to do to be the best. And sometimes there is a cost with that. And I don't think that, anybody set out to die or anything like that. But to me, if the documentary does, well, not if, but when it does, I hope one of the things that it will do would be present a balanced perspective. That's the thing. What is the narrative of this documentary going to be? I hope it does bring a balanced perspective. Talk about the music. Yes, that's the most important part. Talk about his love for music. That's the most important part. His fight for freedom and ownership. And, those are most important. Have that be have that documentary be required viewing for anybody, past, present, future, in the music business. Talk about the impact that's had on, say Anita Baker. She listened. She now owns her own masters. Have it be a lesson for that. Talk about the positive. If you do dwell on the negative, let it be as a thing to, like, definitely, have good people around you, and be in a position to have those good people not be afraid to tell you no. If it does raise certain questions, have it happen organically, not try to make it a sensationalist piece or an exploitive piece. Don't have a lot of these people put on the spot to where, they feel like their personal opinions or whatever, their secrets, whatever, have things just happen organically. And if it does raise certain questions, then, it's meant for the truth to come out in that way. But I want to walk away from this, kind of feeling the same way in watching the recent Frank Zappa documentary. I want to walk away from it like learning a whole lot, being amazed by the genius and the musicianship. When in that Frank Zappa documentary, when he's taking the camera people through the vault, his vault, and to see all those tapes, all those films, all of those albums, unreleased material, live material, to see all of that. That's what I want to walk away with the Prince Netflix documentary. And Frank Zappa was tragic at the end. And it is sad. And unfortunately, a lot of these sort of rock and roll stories or celebrity stories, there's a sad ending, because they're, for whatever reason, whether their health declined or whether it was a drug overdose or whatever it is, it is a sad ending, but I don't want the sad part to overwhelm the entirety of the piece. I don't want it to overshadow, the narrative. I don't want it to be the narrative, actually. Again, like I said, we're tuning in so we can celebrate because, a lot of us, we know the stories, but maybe there's something in there that we'll learn, as old fans, we'll get something new out of it, and yeah, it's like I said, we'll tune in for that sad ending, those last half hour, that last half hour where we know what's coming. But like I said, we don't want it to overshadow. We just go like, oh yeah, that was sad, or it takes you back to that day, and you mourn or you cry, whatever, however you react to it. But the minute those final credits go on that documentary, then, like I said, how did you feel overall? Did it celebrate the music? Did it celebrate his worldview? Did it get the messages that he's been trying to get across, whether it was his entire career or at a certain crossroads in his career? Did those messages get across? Do we still keep him in the highest level of respect after that? And two, just like the Zappa documentary, yeah, I want that soundtrack, and that was, let's see, that Zappa documentary, that was just like a 2-hour thing. And there was a 3 LP set. I forget how many CDs though, maybe 2 CD set. Yeah, I want that for this. So if this is a Netflix documentary and there's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 episodes, then yeah, I want like the Beatles anthology. Give me 6 discs of Prince music, and give me 6 discs of the Vault. Give me the Prince anthology. So yeah, that's the takeaway. So yes, definitely, this is still in production, and I don't know. Hopefully, we'll get a release date. We're coming to the end of 2021, so we still got a few weeks. Maybe we can get one by the end of the year. Merry Christmas, folks. But definitely, I'm looking forward to getting at least an announcement within the first 6 months of 2022. Within the first 6 months. I'll say this. I'm going to say, as of right now, as of today's episode, I'm going to be just above 75% that will get an announcement of the Netflix documentary. And if we get that within the first 6 months, I have a feeling that I'll say that I will be about maybe 40 to 50% that the Super Deluxe would be Diamonds and Pearls at that point. If there is no announcement of the documentary until later in the year, then I'm probably going to be about 50 or 60% that the next Super Deluxe will be Parade. So those are my predictions for 2022. So Slide Dylan 1, thanks for sending that question in. And listeners, what do you think? Are you excited about the Netflix documentary still? I know it's been a long time in production. Hopefully they're getting close to the end of it. But are you excited for it? Do you want to see another type of Prince documentary or some other video release? And when do you think that will get an announcement? Or when do you think it will actually drop? Leave me a comment and let me know your thoughts. And that is going to end this episode of Amari Purple Talk. Once again, thanks for tuning in. And again, don't forget to always download on your favorite podcast platform. definitely welcome to Amazon Music. If you're listening on that platform, welcome aboard. And if you're on YouTube, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Also, check out my website, amaricommunications.com. Check out all the projects that are coming up, the stuff that's already out. Buy some Amari merchandise, t-shirts, coffee mugs, great stocking stuffers for Christmas shoppers out there or birthdays. Just celebrate the musician in your life. Get them a We Funk t-shirt. Amari Purple Talk listeners, get an Amari Purple Talk t-shirt, coffee mug, water bottle. It's all there. So pick it up. That helps keep this show going as long as it can go. And until then, be safe. And we will talk to you next week. Peace. Time to get on the one. Keep it on the one. So we're all the purple party people that